Very serious questions tonight for the ABC, the national broadcaster. Monday last week, the ABC's Four Corners did a special report on protesters who rioted at the US Capitol to stop politicians from declaring that Donald Trump had lost the election and Joe Biden was the new president. And the reporter, Sarah Ferguson, was clear. She was appalled. She was clear that this was all the work of wicked right-wingers. And pay attention to the voice at the end of this clip yelling, "I've got a knife."
Like an invading army, led at many points by trained far-right militias with body armour and weapons. It's mid-afternoon on Insurrection Day, and the mob has found its way to the entrance of the Speaker's lobby.
Let me through, I got a knife. I got a knife.
I've got a knife. Well, that was yelled out, indeed, by a man in body armour and armed with a knife. This man, John Sullivan, who 2 weeks before that Four Corners report, so could have been checked very easily, he was charged with violent entry into the Capitol and interfering with police.
Dude, you're not helping. You're not helping. You're going to get me hurt.
That was his voice too. Sullivan was filming all this, you see, and he can be heard shouting, among other things, "Burn this, S-H-I-T, burn this down." He smashes a window and is the one on his own video offering the knife.
Hey guys, I have a knife. Let me up.
Now here's the thing. The court documents in his proceedings include evidence that media outlets then paid Sullivan, presumably for his video footage. CNN ran some of that video and even interviewed Sullivan about the right wing that allegedly caused all this violence, or that caused a lot of it. And in those court documents is also a remittance advice from our own ABC confirming that it paid this same guy $2,375 US after tax, after he had been charged. So this morning, I asked the ABC for an explanation. I asked, why did it pay John Sullivan? Did it know that Sullivan had actually been charged already with violent entry of the Capitol and hindering police before the ABC paid him? Did it know that his own video shows him inciting the crowd, "Burn this down"? And if it did know that, why didn't it say so in its report? Why didn't it say, well, actually, not all the rioters were what we said, armed men in body armour who were of the far right, because at least one was of the left, and we just paid him your money? Now, the answer I've got is silence. Joining me is a man who has covered the violent far-left protests that have hit so many American cities, particularly over the last year, Black Lives Matter, and has been bashed for it. He's just got a new book out in the New York Times bestseller already for 2 straight weeks already, called Unmasked: Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy, a book which tells us exactly what kind of activists are creating this mayhem, and the mugshots don't actually flatter them. The author is Andy Ngo, who joins us again, this time from London. Andy, it's always great to catch up with you, and congratulations on the success of your book. You deserve it. You've done so much on the ground reporting for this. Are you surprised now that at least one of the people invading the Capitol was not a right-winger, who, invading the building, smashing things, confronting police, telling the crowd to burn it? Not a right-winger, but an activist from the left.
I'm not surprised. I actually recognized John Earl Sullivan pretty early on because he was posting his videos from when he was inside the Capitol Hill. And I recognized him because last year he had been arrested and charged in Utah, where he's from, over a BLM Antifa riot there where a driver was shot. And the local authorities accuse him of threatening to beat a woman. So he has pending charges over that. So regarding the payment that ABC Australia paid to him, as bad as that was, CNN and NBC News each paid him $35,000 for the video of the woman protester getting shot dead. But so they can claim that they didn't know who he was until after he was federally charged recently. But this is what was known on the record about John Sullivan way ahead of the events of the 6th of January. So last year, in addition to his alleged involvement in what happened in Utah, he frequently went to DC. In one video where he was speaking in BLM Plaza on a microphone, he can be heard actually inciting violence, saying things like, "We are going to burn this S down," which is something that he's alleged to have said again on the 6th of January. He's saying that they're not going to wait for the November election, that they're going to pull the MF, referring to Trump, out of office. So he has a history of speaking on record in public, inciting violence. And this is somebody who was paid by your public broadcasting.
And the excuse you give to CNN, and you're right to say they may not have known, the ABC, though, paid him after he was charged. They should have known if they'd done the basic checks. Now, what I want to know is, you've got our ABC, your CNN, and most of the media outlets shocked and horrified by this political violence at the Capitol, which was shocking. Were they equally shocked by the political violence of the left that you saw last year and have documented in cities like Seattle and Portland?
Yeah, so the chattering liberal elites who have been the loudest in condemning what happened on the 6th of January, which should be condemned unequivocally. These are the same people who were at best silent last year and at worst were actually encouraging of what I view as insurrectionary behavior from far left extremists in other cities, like in Portland, where BLM Antifa for months on end, every night, were trying to burn down federal property, police stations.
No, I didn't hear anything from them back then. In fact, I heard people excusing them, saying the protest was mostly peaceful and who cares about violence anyway when important issues at stake. Andy Ngo, thank you so much indeed for your time.
My pleasure.
Now, I want to thank Mike Smith of Mike Smith News. Subscribe there if you can, for alerting me to some material that I've used tonight.